Hello, gang. Welcome to Sketching with Izzy. Hope you all are doing well. My country's imploding right now, which is fun. Good times all around. I'm gonna finish up our angel critter. Naomi, oh my god, thanks for the subs. Jeez. Awful sweet. Yeah, we need an adult. We really need an adult. And yeah, we're not going to find anything like that anytime soon. So we'll see how this plays out. There's already one person is dead. That's crazy. This shit's crazy, man. I can't believe the cops let them in. I've seen the footage of it now. It's incredible. But I think it all goes to show, we've been living under this weird umbrella of American exceptionalism for so long. We forget that this sort of thing is not unusual all around the world. We've been shielded and ignorant for a long time. It's upsetting, though. It sucks. Yeah, exactly. How are you doing these days, lady? Work is very demanding. Well, that's pretty spicy work you've got. It's fun, at least, I hope. It really sucks. This was the peak of it all. Watching Trump's reaction speech. It's absolutely not. He's going to keep this shit up long after he's gone. I mean, he made an entire career out of it even before he was put in office. Look at what he did with that birther shit. This isn't going to stop. Not at all. The problem is and will continue to be that the powers that be can profit off of this nonsense. So long as that's possible, this isn't going to stop. I can promise you that. Until we get corporate money out of American politics, out of all politics, honestly, there is no incentive to change because the people that are affected by all of this crap are not the ones in power. They're not the ones making those that make decisions push in their direction. That's what it is. And what's crazy is this is the sad, crazy, incredible part that always gets me is every time living in Mexico, I lived on my boat, and the vast majority of people that live on boats are elderly white people, and the vast majority of those are pretty extreme right-wing conservatives, and a lot of them were Trumpists. But I could talk to them, and the one thing that we could always agree on is that the system is corrupt, and that if you look at their complaints like Soros and Bezos and shit like that, It all kind of comes down to the same thing, the outsized amount of power that wealth provides. What we want to do about it may be different, but the problem that we have is the same and should be a unifying thing. It's just not. It's weird. It's literally the US has been split into two realities. The news is profiting off of that split. It's just so sad, so obvious too. It's like a bad movie. You can see everything happening in slow motion. All the characters are pure cringe because they're all doing obvious shit. Serdus, welcome. Sorry about that. Hi. I was having a political scree, so I wasn't really reading my chat so much. Sorry, gang. You lean in, ask any questions or whatever at any time. I'm just talking the politics stuff because, I mean, it's happening right now. This kind of stuff is always a fun challenge when you're working without reference. But and going straight into color like I have been, I tend to add color kind of mid/late in the game for concept art and for quick illustrations because it's just a speed thing. But this time it was about kind of building this out in an old-timey painterly fashion, which means you kind of get to do the struggles that you normally associate with traditional medium. It's okay. Just got to remind yourself that you're going to be facing them. I did not have my ref up that I had last time. Hopefully you guys don't mind me being quiet. I tend to quiet down when chat's quiet and just focus. Kind of take my lead from you guys. Small Ghost. Hi, Happy New Year. Welcome. Thank you so much. Glad you could stop in for a second. Hopefully your new year is shaping up nice. I do what I can hydrated wise. I can't always promise the alcohol content on that though. Do I post my art anywhere? You should see popping up every, I don't know, 30 seconds or so, my links here on the screen. But if you're on the Twitch site, on my About page, you should be able to find my Instagram, ArtStation, things like that. But if you're ever having trouble or you just want to make it really easy, get up on Google and do a search for Izzy Medrano art. That should take you to a few of those sites. I would say Twitter, Instagram, those are going to be the places to find the latest. I tend to use my ArtStation more for portfolio stuff, so not everything that I do is on there, not by a long shot. Since we did kind of this cool fill here, we can really push that into the face more, I think. Ninesieta, thank you so much for that follow. Welcome. So I want to capture that monstrousness and maybe I'd like to get it, I don't know, in that uncanny valley kind of way, rather than just keeping her face entirely in shadow. I want it to be visible, the differences between her and what a traditional human might look like, and that will be the thing. It's those differences in clear light that make it haunting and creepy. You don't always need to do, you know, just a dark silhouette in the closet. And what I'm after here is very much, savagery, like the kind of thing you might see in a bird of prey, the way they look at food. It's not malice. It's not that kind of monstrousness. It's more just like absolute predation, you know? I think so much of that can be caught in the eyes. Yeah, it's very intimidating. If you've ever stared down like a big cat, really looked one in the face, you know what I'm talking about. Like there is this pants shitting reality. I mean, even though we are pretty incredibly powerful primates in our own right, I mean, just looking at one of those things, even when they're not looking at you like food, damn, there's so much power there. It's extremely intimidating. Not what I was after. I want to be here. Oh, that's why there's a multiplier there. Okay. Creating some depth and distance with some forced atmospheric effect. Certainly way stronger than needs to be, but because we're doing this, like I said, in a very illustrative manner, it's kind of okay. Just so long as we make the transition smooth, the stylization can be accepted by the eye. You can also use it to kind of direct the eyes into our focal point, by killing contrast, essentially, just knocking back contrast, both dark and light. Okay. Our lightest light. Let's see what we can punch with our lights. You gotta go eat? Hey, no worries, Small Ghost. Thanks for hanging out for a minute. It's good to have you on. We'll see you next time. Enjoy your dinner. You're gonna need to knock back these feathers on the face just a touch. The new favorite? Nice. Thanks, Cypher. Got a little too stripey in there. I don't like that. Oops. Just that little hint was probably enough. Yeah, it's a different challenge trying to create color, sort of prismatic variety with a really condensed, desaturated color key. But I think it's very doable, especially if you're aware of how you can manipulate what a person perceives that they're seeing through simultaneous contrast. So when you get to the colors section of the logic of light and color, you'll see what I'm chatting about, D. Yeah, if you're attempting to do a more traditional style digital piece, being aware of how digital breaks the rules and then reintroducing those limitations can really help force your painting to feel more traditional. It'll never be 100%, but you can get it really close. I think if you look at one of my favorite painters for this kind of style, you should all be checking out Mr. Todd Lockwood. He comes from traditional background too, like myself, but he really has managed to find a way to get his digital media to look and feel just so traditional. And he, not recently, I think it's actually been a few years, but he came out with his own fantasy novel, and he's traditionally known for being, you know, the premier cover artist for a lot of the Tor books and a lot of the D&D books, Forgotten Realms. But he's done his own, and man, those paintings, so fucking good. Very nice guy too. Which I would argue is even more important than the portfolio. Dutch Flemish kind of look. Mm. My very first painting teacher was a Dutch Flemish guy. Um, Denny Hall, I think was his name, and he did what he was known for was painting these insanely tight, luminous still lifes. You know, fish in a bowl, that kind of shit. And at the time when I was young, I was like, "This is cool, but it doesn't have boobies in it, therefore it's not good." Which is, you know, that's classic kid thinking when it comes to unlocking these skill sets. And he was a great teacher. I remember he spent a lot of time explaining things to me because, as I've mentioned in here before, I've always been the kind of student that's just like, why, why? And while he didn't always have answers for me, he was pretty patient, and he put up with a lot of my obnoxiousness. So hats off to that fella. He's a great teacher. But one of the things I do remember the most is he had this habit that I've always found interesting, and I always wanted to include it in a story or something, like as a character tit. There we go. But what he would do is when he would talk to you, he would want to carefully lay out his sentences. And part of this was English was his second language, but I mean he'd spoken English for decades and decades and decades, so it was only really just a slight accent. But he had this habit of just kind of like closing his eyes and talking to you thoughtfully like this, like he would articulate the point, and his eyes would be closed, his eyebrows would be these thick bushes just dancing around, and then eventually he'd open his eyes and kind of look past you, and then once he'd start again talking about something, then he'd close his eyes again. It was like he was conducting. It was fantastic. I would ask him questions sometimes just to watch his face. It's a very interesting man. Super smart. I always, whenever I talk to people and, you know, even, you know, work environments, things like that, I'm always kind of studying and observing for those little ticks, because that's the storyteller in me that wants to remember these little things, these little details that will add life to stories or characters that I create. And how people look at stuff is such a, it's not necessarily telling, it's such a cue into their personality type, or how they deal with confrontation, or how they interact with other people. It's fascinating. I think we're going to have to go dark here instead of light. We're going to go for the iridescent shine instead, which means we're going to be painting in the rim light rather than, or not a rim light, sorry, but the specular. Rather than a soft light punch. Yeah, I think that's more fitting for what we're after here with that kind of feather structure. I'm not really sure how it's all connecting. I'm kind of like, I don't know, I'm imagining sort of the patterns on other birds and things like that. My music died, so I gotta start up a new playlist. Sorry, gang. One sec. You don't want me singing. That's no good. Nope, nope, nope. Ooh. What kind of music do you guys like to listen to when you're making stuff? I find when I plan out music, there's a lot of people that will be like in a mood and then they want music that supports that mood, which I get. Oops. I've seen it a lot of times in TV shows and movies. Like characters will do that. They're like they're feeling sad or something, and so they'll put on sad music. I'm kind of the opposite. I put on music to get into the mood that I want. So, and I found that totally works when I'm painting or writing, especially. So if I want to get a specific feel going so that it supports whatever it is I'm creating, I start listening to music that kind of is the soundtrack for that thing. And it's pretty fun. It works pretty well for me. What's the soundtrack for this one? This definitely has like some Conan vibes. This is some Carmina Burana right here. Kova is not excited for the painting, unfortunately. Kova is balls deep in some meds right now. She's kind of out of her mind and high. She's on antibacterial, antifungal, steroids, just a whole host of good stuff. Yeah, she's sick. She has severe allergies. And yeah, we're just trying to get her skin under control so that we can actually try and figure out what the allergies are. I love the kind of color variation effect you get with these per tip hue variation brushes. They're so fun. And they give you a lot of that nice visual noise that tends to make things look a little bit, you know, textured in a more painterly way. Was there any specific reason I chose to soften the corner edge of the back wing? Do I feel it was competing with the head? Yes, and also I softened a bunch of the edges in order to kind of imply speed. There's a very subtle hint of motion blur in it that I'm after, which is another sort of... It's a long way of saying, yeah, the same, yes, I am effectively trying to just soften that edge so that it's not competing so much with the hair in the foreground, but also narratively because I'm trying to imply movement. Yeah, it sucks. Kova's always had allergies ever since she was a puppy, but since we moved to Oregon, it's gotten really bad. Really, really bad. She has severe wet eczema, so her skin in some patches is like really soggy and damp and pussy, and it's gross. She's always been a stinky dog, but now it's like whole new world, and not a good kind. So I took her to a dermatologist yesterday, and was it yesterday or the day before? Yesterday. And yeah, just trying to figure out what the hell to do. It's tough. She doesn't understand. I don't want to just kind of drug her up so that she sleeps through the whole thing, but part of me kind of does want to just drug her up so she sleeps through the whole thing, because it's frustrating dealing with her when she's like this. She also has OCD, like pretty serious OCD, and that also adds to the daytime fun. If I didn't work from home, I don't think I could even keep her because she's so over the top. It's a very demanding animal. I do not recommend this breed. You can wave a magic wand. This is the kind of pain you wish would come naturally to you. It's all the appeal. It's just practice. And for real, I know I mention it in almost every session, but traditional painting is going to teach you so much so fast. I highly recommend all digital painters to spend some time with traditional media. You went through medical stuff with your cats and it's horrendous? Yeah. Yeah, poor Kova. Yeah, Kova's especially difficult to know what's wrong with her because she has a super high pain tolerance. She does not present pain to the point where it's actually confused vets on numerous occasions. And it has almost gotten her killed a couple of times. Like she'll play right through pain, doesn't show it at all. She'll eat. She's always hungry, even if she'll immediately vomit it up because she's sick. She'll eat. It's tough. She's a very difficult animal. One of the things I love about doing like this highly textured approach with lots of color variation and things like that is that you can go in there and then just carve it up with line. And because the textures are there, it'll make sense. It's so cool. Another reason why I liken what I'm doing here very much to how I would do acrylics is because I would carve up a painting after I've painted it, you know, I've done the painting, then I would go in with colored pencils and then start adding lines and vibrant color on the edges, do a little, you know, chromatic aberration, and then go back in with paint on top. And then you get these nice little color pops and all sorts of weird shit going on. It's a cool way to get artifacting. High blood pressure caused the retinas to detach? Holy shit. Oh my god. That's very scary shit. I imagine it's terrifying for a dog, for any animal, just suddenly not be able to see. might be a little too harsh for what I'm trying to do here. So let's get a softer brush. Let's knock that back down again. Let's try this again. Well, I think, you know, the fact that it looks like something like that, you know, art book style, is not even so much the finish of it or anything. It's the content. This is very sort of traditional media, um, you know, Western mythology. This is stuff that we just tend to accept as belonging in books like that. I think that's part of it for sure. How far do I want to render it? I don't know. Till it feels done. At this point, I don't see what I'm doing as so much rendering, but still sort of just defining aspects of it. So this is what I was talking about in regard to carving up a form using line after you've established a great amount of textural variety with varying your hues and saturation, but keeping it all within a relative value key. Then you go in and carve that up with either lights or darks, and you can create implied complexity by just defining a little bit, just a touch of those edges and overlaps. Makes a huge difference. And the more subtly you do this, the more delicious. This can be done with any complex material. Dragon scales, I don't know, punker spikes on leather, scale armor, anything that's complex can be simplified down like this. So turn it off. See how it's just kind of a loose material, and then you start actually adding in these lines. It's going to refine it significantly. Mama Peruru, thank you so much for that follow. Glad you could join us this evening. Yeah. Yeah, all of my stream names are pretty silly. The great thing about the motion blur blend, say that 20 times fast, is that it can go both ways. You don't need to just make it one unidirectional. So if you've been paying attention for a bit, and remember the dark lines that I put in, I just put in light lines that just completely ignored the structure of the dark lines I put in initially. Because they're stronger values, they win. When you see it again after a break, you won't even notice that stuff. To let's cool that off significantly. Hey, Tomato Joe. Thanks for joining. Thank you. Excuse me. Yeah. Thanks for that follow, Creative Tomato Joe. Appreciate that. Indeed, there are tears in some creature's future when this harpy lands. I love harpies. I always have. They're just such interesting critters. I have a very serious soft spot for Greek mythology. All mythology, honestly, but Greek mythology was one of the first ones I got really familiar with and went out of my way to learn. And I've painted harpies numerous times. I was very lucky to get God of War as one of my early jobs as a career, because I immediately got to put my knowledge, my mythology knowledge, to use, and it was invaluable at the time. Admittedly, I don't get to use it that much anymore. There's just not much of a market for it currently. But that said, Hades came out, and that was pretty damn sweet. Although I could have never done it because I come from a pretty traditional mythological training, if there is such a thing, or storytelling. And the style that they ended up going with, which is gorgeous. Gen Z is just, she's so fucking good. I would have never come up with that. She's a great art director. We came up together around the same time on DeviantArt, and I remember I'd always been a fan of her work. Yeah, mythology is great. Totally. I should work on a game with mythology in it. I've worked on several games with mythology in it. God of War, not the least of which, of course. Sorry, I didn't know. A lot of people don't know that I worked on God of War, many God of War games. I've been researching Slavic mythology. Yeah, the issues I've had with Slavic mythology and Balkan mythology, which I'm having to research a lot these days, is that the translations are terrible, really, really bad to English. So, yeah, they're out there. It's just the translation problem is huge. A perfect example of that would be the Witcher series, right? Like that became hugely popular. I mean, it was very popular, and it's Polish, right? It was hugely popular in its home country, but what really drove up the sales and took it to the next level was a good English translation. And I think that's part of the reason that Greek mythology has stood the test for so long is because it was written in the educated languages of its time. And as such, I mean, it was basically, all that was available for a while. This is also true for the Bible. Bible. Sorry. A little itch in my throat. So see how that just starts to populate? We started with just roughs, and then it's just about carving out and defining the shapes more and more and more. Just keep defining and subdividing, dividing and subdividing those different shapes. Spooks High School. Thank you so much for that follow. Welcome. You're Polish. You don't live in Poland, so you never learned the language. Do you speak it, or it's just literacy? That's awesome, though. I'm so envious. Oh, you're so lucky. I'm so envious of polyglots. Like that's my biggest regret is that as a kid I did not learn other languages. I just speak English pretty poorly at that. Writing is the worst. Yeah, grammar period is really tough. It's interesting because you learn these rules when you speak it and you know them intimately. But when they try and train you in it, it's just like something clicks. It's really hard. It just turns off. Like, God damn it. I had the same problem with English grammar. I did not understand grammar or grammar classes from when I was a kid until I tried to teach myself a second language. And once I tried to do that, then it started to make sense. Because you don't question you don't question how you speak. And to give it formula seems kind of antithetical to how you operate just speaking, It's tough. But yeah, mad respect for the polyglots out there. Big love. Okay, we've been noodling on these feathers for a little while. Let's knock back a little bit of this sheen. At least in the middle, I think. It's getting a little muddy up there, and I don't like that. So instead of just being strokey, I'm just going to make one shape and then carve back the lights back into it. Whoops. It's good enough. There's so many sounds. Yeah. All the languages I've struggled with the most, just even in pronunciation and things like that, are the ones that have emphatic syllables. So we have emphatic syllables in English, but we don't need them. You can be completely understood, like 99.9% of the time, even if you put the wrong emphasis on the incorrect syllable, still understood, right? But there are a lot of languages that are syllabically inherent. So even Spanish, which is the language I was trying to teach myself, if you put the wrong emphasis in the wrong area, it's a totally different word. Even if everything else sounds the same. So to American English in particular, ears, it can be extremely difficult to master those sounds and an alternate language that works that way. Awesome. I'm glad you dig it, Cyber. Started with German and Polish, so English was easy. Awesome. Also, it's a really common, it's like a common tongue for a lot of different cultures. So it's sort of the street language that you're sure everybody can speak a little bit of. Also, I think one of the other big contributors, this is something I learned from a lot of the Mexicans that I hung out with, is that, a lot of the media, especially back in the day when I was a kid, was all in English, like primarily English. Anything good you were going to find, it was going to be in English first. Now, that said, things have changed significantly, and we have all these incredible movies and TV shows and things like that in German and Korean, Chinese. And it's so cool because now, we're getting exposed to these different languages and these different cultures. I think it's super exciting. My favorite thing is just learning the intrinsic cultural knowledge stuff that you would never have guessed or even understood. That's the stuff that really gets me going with all of these new stories, these new voices taking center stage. It's so great. English doesn't have genders to deal with. For the majority of English, that's totally true. We don't gender nouns. They show movies sometimes in English with Polish subtitles. Yeah, it's really common all around the globe. So, in essence, just by watching TV as a little kid in another country, you're gonna get English lessons from pretty much birth. And that's still the case. It's still a hugely influential language when it comes to media. But that's changing. And I think as China becomes an even more dominant market, you're going to see more adoption of Chinese words too. Kova, enough! Jackass. TV, there's voiceover, but the same guy. Yeah, it's the same in Mexico. Like the voice for Homer Simpson is the voice for everybody. And I'm pretty sure he's not called Homer. Maybe he is. I don't know. Homer. This kind of glazing overlay technique is very much, I know I mentioned this before in previous sessions, but this is hugely influenced by how I handle acrylics. So traditional media is influencing this painting pretty significantly. And you'll notice that by overlaying rich colors, you're going to get a more desaturated mix of those two things where they're directly overlaid. But where one is a little bit dominant, you're going to get that richer color. And then the other stroke where that's a little bit more dominant, you're going to get that richer color. So it's this back and forth that I'm trying to kind of caress to get little spots of saturation here and there. Excuse me. Let's grab a little bit of this. Oop, too saturated. Okay, let's get some more of that color into the other feathers. And I need to do some feather clumping just like I did on the wings. Thanks. I'm glad you dig it. Yeah, if you want to see other episodes of or other sessions of the show, I'm archiving all of this stuff on YouTube, which is the site's youtube.com/Izzy Medrano. And you can catch up on other stuff if you just find it meditative listening to my tender, dulcet tones and tell you messed up stories about living on a boat and creepy mythology. Give me a sub over there, follow, notification, bell, all that good stuff. I don't know how long that will remain public. That is likely, as I'm working out my Patreon plan, the YouTube access to YouTube archive will likely end up being a patron reward tier. But for now, enjoy. Oh, thanks, Tomato Joe. Yeah, doing this traditionally styled was the idea from the outset. So we're just going super old school style. Hey, Autumn, how's it going, bud? Yeah, what I love comparing this to how I was doing videos before on for my Patreon, I'm actually doing way more content here on Twitch per month for supporters. But because it's live and it's interactive, it feels way less like work. It just feels more like we're hanging out and having kind of a drink and draw session, you know? What, you're not drinking? You poor fool. Get some booze in you right now. Join me in Boozy Town. Oh, no, 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 no. Let's knock that way back. It's the danger of using a variety of color controls. Sometimes things can get a little out of hand. Liquid lunch. Awesome. For these, for the sort of hair feathers and the leg feathers, I'm just doing the same treatment that I did for the wings. Just creating some noise with colors and then carving it up with the cast shadows and the overlaps of the feathers to kind of create density effect and help explain the contours, all for minimum amount of effort. Because again, I do everything the laziest way possible. I'm all about cutting corners. Okay. Lazy and efficient, yeah. How are we doing on time? I kind of lost track. Okay, a couple of hours in. Definitely don't think that we're going to finish this one tonight. But I think we're going to have a nice, fun, you know, maybe a portfolio piece out of this one. We'll see. I don't think it's actually showing anything new in regard to skill set, but it's fun, you know, it's different from things I traditionally paint, I suppose. But maybe not. I mean, I paint a lot of sexy monsters. Yeah, it's very heavy metal, I think. I think we'll just kind of do something similar to what we did here. Just let this kind of fall off. Martz, thank you so much for that follow. I'm glad you could join this evening. Thanks, I appreciate it. Okay. So I want that same kind of variety that I have up in the wings, but I don't want the legs to be as sort of eye-catching in the same way. They can certainly be interesting. Oh, we should save for sure. I haven't done that in a while. They can be eye-catching, but I don't want them to completely take away from what I've got going up top. No. Checking to make sure we're still getting some video. It froze on my screen for a second, but looks like we're okay. I'm just stretching out my hands. They're getting a little crampy. Getting old, gang. My hands beg to differ. And my old shoulders, which are slowly giving out on me. Oh, can't do that with this brush. Nope, nope, nope. She do. Yeah, this is totally giving me like those old heavy metal cover. Uh, what were those? The old Spectrums, like from back in the 90s or early 2000s. Got that feel to it, which is totally fine with me. We're absolutely breaking out of my mold of what I normally do here, which is cool. In terms of look, at least. Glad you dig it, Cypher. Hey, Avid, thanks. Yeah, it's got that kind of like retro futurism thing. It's very 80s. I love it. Retro fantasy futurism. I don't know. Oh, you know what? Her face is actually also kind of reminds me of the girl in Avatar. I kind of basically painted Avatar. I just realized that. Sometimes I do that. I get images in my head and then end up just painting it. You like that? How's it going, Ermagerd? Not the proper term. Well, damn. Yeah, it's pretty insane times right now. I definitely cannot say that I'm pleased with this shit. It's messed up. Yeah, the Twitter civil war. Good times for that. HN 1989, thank you for the follow. Glad you could join us tonight. Everything will be fixed in 15 days. Right. Democrats are not any better, really. Oh, we're in for a long haul. This is gonna be a long fucking fight. I can tell you that right now. They disabled his account. That's good news. The last I saw, they just turned off messages or turned off replies, but they were still letting him publish them. If they stop that, that's amazing. They're a few years too late, but damn. You missed the stream alert because you were doom scrolling. Yeah, I actually doom scrolled a little bit in this session. I'm dying to see what's going on because I mean, last I checked in, I mean the woman that got shot, the terrorist, she's dead, which is crazy, and like that happened. What the hell? With a mild threat of suspension. Ah, I see. I see. Alex Sky, thank you so much for that follow. I appreciate that. And your patience, I'm slowly catching up. Considering he's been using it to organize radicals, they should have done this ages ago. I mean, stochastic terrorism. Come on. This is serious shit. It's real. It's totally real. And it's a method for manipulation. And he's an expert at it, even though I don't think he's done it on purpose. He's clearly knows how to rile people up. And that's been obvious for ages. Thank you, Alex Sky. I appreciate that. Yeah, she's dead. God damn. Well, I don't want anybody to die, but if you're gonna roll up on, I mean, it's crazy. I saw that one video of the woman that was crying because she was outside and she's like, I only got a foot into the door and they maced me. The cops maced me, and they were like, well, okay, what were you doing in here? And she was like, well, I'm part of the revolution. Like, no, not even an ounce of self-awareness, of, you know, an ability to perceive what she's saying. It's incredible. Why did they mace me? I was just here for the revolution. Fucking morons, man. This is America. You don't think he knows how to do anything else? Everything he does is from... Yeah, I think everything he is doing is for a self-serving purpose. I don't think he has the wherewithal to understand. I think he is genuinely, like, not there. But that he has riled up these people, and that the things that he's doing have greater... they will have greater effect than just pumping up his ego. Because right now, I mean, you can basically rest assured He's emotionally, furiously masturbating over people coming to battle for him, and it's just gross. He's just a gross, horrible, horrible person, and he's only looking at this from a very short-term scale. I seriously doubt he understands the depth of damage that has caused already and will cause by egging these people on. I don't think he even understands what stochastic terrorism is. But I do think it's something that we charge for. So, I don't know, maybe we'll actually see an impeachment. As I understand it, last I read, Ilhan Omar was drafting letters of impeachment again. It's a little bit late in my book, but, whatever. The great thing, if he actually is impeached, which, honestly, I doubt it's going to happen at this late date, but if he was impeached, then that would rid him of the ability to have his presidential immunity, which would be incredible at this stage, because he's basically been calling for sedition for the last month. Like, it's gone from, I don't trust these ballots, to you cannot trust the government, and we need to overthrow. Like, that's where we're at right now. It's fucking crazy. It's crazy how fast it happened, too. And also how totally expected all of this was. Kova! Shut up! Jackass. Also first, thank you so much for that follow. Don't put the imagery of him masturbating in your minds. It's too late. It's in there now. I got you. You were told the only thing we could do to end the biggest partisan divide since the Civil War was win an election. Yeah, no. This is the giant con that's happened. Is that the establishment left, which really isn't left at all. It's centrist or right. It's like sort of more moderate conservative is our left. We don't have a left wing in the United States at all. And I mean, even the progressives, they don't represent a wing. We don't have a wing. We have some individuals that kind of have similar beliefs to the rest of the world's sort of standard conservative left. And that's extremism here. That's extreme left. They're all communists and shit like that. It's fucking... There's no way that him being defeated is going to stop what's happening right now. What we are seeing is sort of the logical conclusion of a Tea Party. So this is the evolution of a Tea Party that we're seeing, and it's going to continue. And in some ways, if they were to impeach Trump, if they were to politically martyr him, that's just going to cement this guy even more in these people's minds. So I don't know. I mean, they're between a rock and a hard place. You can't punish him because that's going to deify him even further. And you can't let him get away with everything, because what does that mean for the future of this office? Like, this used to be kind of a sacred office that, surprisingly, it turns out a lot of the abilities and powers that you had and things like that were dependent on, the trust and honor system, which is stupid and was a terrible mistake. The founders were not perfect on that one. It's very frustrating. I really don't think that it would change anything. I don't think it will change anything. We're still going to have this extreme partisan divide. And by catering to centrism and establishmentarianism, you're going to put something like Trump right back into power. It's just going to happen because people are not being represented. Right now, the only thing being represented is corporatism, the establishment. But both, Bernie and the left and, the things that Trump originally ran on are ultimately what we would call populism. And populism is the name of the game right now. And you can't being a corporatist like Biden is doing, and like the cabinet he's putting together, is going to cause more problems. You're going to put another Trump in office. And unfortunately, the next one's not going to be as stupid as this guy. And that's really scary to me. Let me read through these. Sorry, guys, I was ranting there for a minute. I do go on. He'll throw anyone and everyone within arm's reach under the bus. Absolutely. No, I mean, this guy cannot be held accountable for anything. He's like allergic. He's physically allergic to accountability, to being wrong. It's so sad. Like he's so clearly not a whole person. He's just the tender skin flakes of you cannot get this guy to be accountable for anything. He doesn't understand shame. He will never understand shame. And unfortunately, he's taught so many politicians that works. And people love it because we are now a nation of people that love reality TV and dramas. We love the dramas. Here we are. Totally get charged with sedition. Hopefully. Total narcissist. Oh yeah, he's an extreme, like, maniac narcissist. Like, do you mind talking a bit about what you do art wise? Oh geez, I'm sorry, Alex Guy. I've just been going on. I am a concept artist and illustrator, and I'm currently working as an art director for a video game indie studio. I've been doing illustration and teaching painting and art for 15 years, 16 years, and doing concept art a little bit longer than that. I've done a bunch of AAA titles. I'm known for working on Magic the Gathering, if that's something you've ever heard of. Not everybody has. But yeah, and I've been on Twitch now for almost a year, and it's just sort of just hanging out art community thing, talking shit. That's what we do in here. But if you have any questions, any specific art questions, please lean in at any time. That's always welcome. It'll get me off of talking about politics, which I know is not a very popular subject. They call Biden a communist. They call it the mine. Yeah, right. He's a communist. Jordan Peterson always said that humanity is currently undergoing a time of chaos and change. Interesting. I mean, humanity is always undergoing chaos and change. When it's not is usually when you have some kind of severe oppression. So we'll see. Put them all in prison. You don't give a fuck. We can just let them get away with it. I agree. Exile if you don't want to imprison him. Honestly, I think we should give him to The Hague. We should give him to Interpol. Already, Iran has called for Trump and many people in his administration to be put before. What's the international law? Hague is the prison, but they did it for the Nazis. God, I'm totally forgetting words right now. But anyway, yeah, they called for that already. So yeah, the Interpol they petitioned Interpol for a warrant for that. Yeah, so obviously it's not going to happen. They did this with George Bush Jr. too, where after he basically started a war totally built on lies that was responsible for, hundreds of thousands dead or whatever, they called for him to be locked up, and he was pardoned by one of our favorites. He said no. So to me, I don't trust any of these pig fuckers. Not a one. Those feathers. Thanks, Calendar. Biden does seem to at least look like he's taking global warming seriously. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the Paris Climate Accord is not taking it seriously at all. It's sort of like a half-assed agreement to maybe try to get somewhere with something. But I mean, we need actual serious change. I do like his Secretary of the Interior nom. That was cool. Gareth Waugh. Hey, bud. How's it going? Did you just finish up a show? Hope all is good. Malignant narcissism is the term I'm looking for. Yes, thank you. You appreciate your thoughts and the way you rendered those feathers is super cool. Thanks, Ossifers. You like Magic the Gathering? Never played the game, but the art looks great. Hey, nice to meet you too. I used to play in high school, but I always was into it for the art. That's before I ever even really did art. So when I finally worked on it, I was like, oh my God, what a treat. It was pretty cool. Paris was a rubber stamp. It was. Gareth, I'm good. I'm good. Just finishing up this silly old harpy here. Watching my country completely dissolve, which is fun. But I mean, it's been doing that. It's been the frog slowly boiling for quite a while. As you well know, you guys have some fun stuff going on out that way too. It's kooky times. So many dumbasses. It's something. People don't notice the first few crumbles in an avalanche. I mean, at this point, this is fully an iceberg just calving. Like, everything is falling apart. I mean, the real thing that I think that all of this is shedding light on is the fact that it's all been a construct all along. Like, this system works only because people believe in it and because they give it that power. When you make them question that, and regardless of who's causing that questioning, you realize it's all a house of cards, the whole damn thing. I mean, from corporatism, establishmentarianism, all the way to, you know, a monarchy, like out in the Isles. It's all bullshit. It's kind of like just globally, everybody realized that their parents are fallible. You know how that happens when you're a kid? There's that time where you're some parent, one or the other, or whomever, some adult, does something just so profoundly stupid. You're like, what? And then it just blinks. And then you realize, holy crap, God is dead. This is all bullshit. They don't know what they're doing at all. We are, as a nation, as a planet, we're experiencing this again. I think it happens, you know, it probably happens every millennia or whatever, where humanity has this big reset where all of our norms get destroyed, and we're like, oh yeah, this is dumb. At least we've got front row seats. Yeah, that's true. It's not until the wall of white destruction is bearing down on you that you realize you're fucked. Yeah, it's true. And that it's too late to run. I mean, you're Charlize Theron running along the path of the ship as it rolls and crushes you, right? Like, it is what it is. It's too late. We can no longer react. It is now happening. We are neck deep. 2020 will be chaos, and said it follows a cycle. That's interesting, Garrett. I think Hammy was talking about something like that a while ago about, I think it was back when Trump first got elected. He was talking about how there's this weird cycle that seems to happen with governments of large enough nations. And I think maybe that's what he was talking about. Oops. Wow. Sorry about that. Do not run under the thing that's falling over. Yeah, right? And out over here, we have economic crisis every 18 years and keep voting the same party. Can't wait to get the fuck out. Where are you at, Kellender? I mean, where we're at in the States, we don't really have two parties. The two-party system is bullshit. It's a single party. I really wish we had a parliamentary system and ranked choice voting. Like, that would be the bare minimum. If I could just call for two things, well, I'd say three things. It would be ranked choice voting in every elected position, getting money completely out of politics, like all of the campaigns, like they are in Europe and in some countries in Europe, are funded by the people, and so you get a budget, and that's it. You get free airtime to say your piece, and that's it. You're done. You don't get any money from corporations, anything like that. And then finally, it would be a parliamentary system in which you have more parties representing the broader spectrum of the people. Those three things, and I think you have a system that's going to be better off. But that said, I mean, the UK still managed to completely shit its pants in regards to this same exact problem, authoritarianism. It's there's no way to completely get this. Maybe there is something to what Gareth was saying about how like it runs in a cycle. Maybe there's really nothing that can be done. It just is. It was her own dumbass fault. Argentina. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, you guys have been through some really weird shit just this last couple years, right? Basically a coup, yeah? There's like 2 coups. A Perobelta, thank you so much for that follow. Give Puerto Rico and DC statehood, 100%. I 100% agree with that. Actually, if DC had statehood, we wouldn't have had the problems that we had today. They could have called the National Guard themselves. They had to wait for Virginia to do it. Thank you for your condolences, a Parabelta. Yeah, that's appreciated. It is sad, but I mean, in all honesty, we have been perpetrating what is happening to us right now in many other countries for decades and decades. So, you know, I'm not feeling too bad for us. I feel bad for people that are suffering. Absolutely. Especially when it's not their fault. That are totally corrupt system. I mean, this is 100% a banana republic at this stage. It's just 100% corrupt. We just made corruption legal. That's it. That's the only difference between us and Venezuela in that respect. North Korea, we just made it legal. No one questions it. It's only a matter of time before we tried to colonize ourselves. Yeah, agreed. That's good shit. Cheeky Chelsea, thank you so much for that follow. I'm glad you could join. Ossifers, you heard something like fascism is just imperialism turned inwards. Yeah, that's a pretty accurate statement. I think the two beget each other either way. Oops. Amazing art. Thank you, Cheeky Chelsea. Appreciate that. You don't call it a coup since you did have a military heavy one in the 60s where people disappear. Yeah, okay, fair point. Yeah. Military coups, yeah, they're both coups, but that's certainly much more drama and very drastic. I remember when it happened in Thailand, what was that, like 6 years ago, 7 years ago? That shit was crazy. And no matter where it happens, it's not the people's fault that their unelected officials start revolutions in other nations. Nobody deserves something like this. Agreed. Agreed. So many of us, I mean, you know, you just want to live your life and be a good person, be a good neighbor, and they make it impossible. It's sad. We're just seeing the natural progression of the Protestant ideology of work equals morality, which was perverted in the idea that wealth equals morality. Agreed. And that work and wealth mean value. That there is no other such thing that can create value, like a life well lived, or being a good person, or helping your community. That's why teachers are paid garbage. That's why the elderly are left to rot. That's why the mad are left in the streets. It all comes down to capitalism. The cult of celebrity elevating people of obscene wealth into positions of public influence. Yeah. And then also, I would argue even further, what's happened with people like Trump is that it's not just obscene wealth, it's just obscene people being so over the top, so shameless and gross, is like a calling card of your value and quality in our society. And it's been that way and heading that way for a long time. And I blame a little bit reality TV. People thinking that was cool. Hate to say it, but I am 100% positive that that's a contributing factor. We had a reality show president, right? Holy crap. That is insane. Oops. Just softening that shit from earlier. My head transition there. That's pretty fun. Let's turn off our colors and see how she looks. With some good hot spots. We can do a couple of more hot spots. A little bit more messing about with accent values. We have a lot of accent values in the face. Maybe too much. Let's knock it back and see if we can bring it back a little bit more gently. Told a friend the people who like Trump are of two kinds: the cynical rich who want to pay no taxes, and the other stupid loudmouths I identify with our stupid loudmouth president. Yeah, that's a fair assessment. And boy, did they profit. Everybody that had stakes profited. No, that's not quite the right spot for that. So I have the breast here. We're going to press the breast into the thigh. And then rib cage. Yeah, that's it. That's the ticket. And then let's add one hint of one for that arm there. Yeah. Just making overlaps of shapes. You would have expected more hooks and claws, talons and such. Yeah, I think it's precisely the fact that they were expected as to why I did not add them. But I agree. I think I was just trying to break the mold, do something a little different. Also, I had no idea what this was going to be when I started. Like, really no idea. This very much kind of appeared out of nowhere. Dark Heart Rising, thank you so much for that follow. Centralized moderation on social media caused this, you think? The concept of putting Ayakashi demons in a jar and let them fight each other to see the strongest emerge. Yeah, I can see that. And it hones the most sort of venomous and vitriolic memes out there. It's just a meme honing system, and people and their behaviors can absolutely be memes. So I think you're right that social media was a major contributing factor to this nonsense. You agree, but also people who like Trump are people who have been left behind. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that they're victims here too, and that's why I say I was talking about it earlier that a lot of the people that I've talked with that are right wing or Trumpists and supporters of his, the one thing we can all agree on is that everybody's sick of being screwed by the rich people. And they thought, weirdly, that Trump was on their side and was a representative for them, not because he wasn't rich, but because he talked differently than the bullshit that was coming out of the more erudite circles in DC. So he spoke like them, and he kind of rubbed his butt all over the pillow of the establishment, and they loved that, and they still love that, and I think that's like the number one thing that they dig. But the fact is that he left them behind too, and I think a lot of his supporters realize that. Not all of them. I mean, we got the Coup folk that have just fully gone off the deep end, but it is what it is, This is what happened on all mainstream social media. They isolated and crystallized a portion of the population and turned it into a demon and then released it into the real world. Yeah. And now the real world pushes back. What's happening right now is an equivalent of hand grenade blowing up in the hand of a stupid monkey that pulled out the pin. Yeah, I think these are absolutely fair statements. 100%. I think, for example, the predecessor to Trumpism was the Tea Party, and the Tea Party didn't just happen in social media. It happened in traditional media too, and it was just it was allowed to fester and exacerbate things. And then the politicians, like Obama, did not help these people. They were left behind. Their concerns and their upset are legitimate. There's a lot of, that because our administrations have supported corporatism for so long, they supported the tax breaks. They allowed these companies to leave, and they abandoned the American people and the working class. We don't have a middle class working class anymore. We just don't. We have a service class, and that's it. And then the ultra rich, and that divide is massive. And that's why I was so hopeful for Bernie getting to the right wingers and explaining to them that thinking. But the problem is that there's just been this deeply embedded, anti-socialist, sentiment for so long that so many of these people don't even know what that shit means. Oh, it's so frustrating. I feel like he's the voice of the anti-establishment, despite being very much part of the establishment. He's absolutely the establishment. That guy knows, because he's rich and is able to manipulate a system that supports the rich, he's been able to get everything that he has. His loans, the presidency, the college degree. I mean, he knows how to abuse the system, which is the establishment. I mean, the rest of us don't have the money or the wherewithal to do that sort of shit. You might not have heard Twitter locked his account. I just heard, yeah, which is great. We bit of them have delusions about themselves magically falling into the upper 2% wealth-wise. Oh, yeah. They're just suffering from an embarrassing lack of millionairism. Is that the phrase? Yeah, it's true. I have a lot of friends that are ultra right wingers that kind of come from that perspective where they're just like, what? Well, you are attacking rich people just because you're not rich yet, and I'm going to be rich someday, and then I want to have those freedoms. But like, this ties back to what we were talking about a moment ago about how we qualify the value of a person. You know, be output equals profit, profit equals value. If you cannot provide profit, you are of no value, and that's what's causing this mental illness. It's totally a mental illness to believe that being insanely rich is going to somehow make everything better. And we have more than enough, like as a not just as a country, but as a planet. We have more than enough to feed everyone, to take care of everyone, to ensure a decent life for everyone, bare minimum. But that's not a focus because everybody's so concerned with just getting what's theirs. There's not that individualism has become a cancer in some respects that we've propagated here in the West. And it's crazy. It's totally crazy to not just want to care for your neighbor and make sure that everybody has what they need. It's really sad, and it's at every level. And it seems like, in my experience, having come from pretty extreme poverty as well, that other people that I've known that have come from that are always looking to kick the ladder out from behind them. They climbed up and now they don't want to let anybody else get up there the same way. That's crazy to me. We're definitely a broken people culturally. Trump is educated, but you mean not really. They relate to his level of dumb. Yeah. This is the political equivalent of ignoring a festering wound and then being surprised when you find out you're dying. Yeah. Well, ignoring it and being like, what's that smell? Everything's fine, but what's that smell? This thing hurts. Arm flop. It's gross. They've been brainwashed to be against their own best interests. Everybody has, because it's not only just brainwashed against their own best interests, but brainwashed against even basic reasoning. The whole idea that you can profit unendingly, that you can always make more and more and more and more and more, and that this is going to be a never-ending sail to the moon. We're just going to keep going up forever. That's insane. That profit margin is our motivation. Like that's brainwashed madness. That's totally against nature in every possible way. To have constant growth, that's cancer. So it's infuriating to me that all of us have been inculcated to work and believe against our own best interest. It's horrible. There's a line in Death to 2020 that says Trump didn't know the meaning of concede, and he was furious when his staff told him. Yeah, that was great. Death to 2020 was surprisingly funny. I had a good time with that. You think that there's very valid thought in that argument. You don't think the amount of racism and societal change can be overlooked. I think so much of this is because of changing demos and racism. I think that's a huge part of it, but I think that your average poor white person has more in common with average poor black person than they do with rich white people. And the same is true for rich black people. So racism absolutely contributes to this, especially when we're talking about, what's the word I'm looking for here? Not establishment, but the kind of racism where it's part of the systemic racism, where like you can't get housing in certain areas, or you're not taught how banking works and shit like that. Like that kind of systemic racism 100% contributes to this disparity. It's horrible, and it's part that is being an American. That's the American dream right there. I really hope that we can do something better. I don't think that Biden and his plan to just kind of meet everybody in the middle is going to do it. We need pretty drastic change. I think there's a it's something like in America, the poor view themselves not as lower class, but as temporarily embarrassed millionaires. Yeah, that's the one. Someone needs to tell Bezos. Yeah. Bezos is kind of awful. Like the fact that those guys, and their argument is always like, don't tax us, just depend on philanthropy. But philanthropy accounts for nothing compared to taxes. Like if you ask people to voluntarily give their insane dragon's hoard of wealth and give any of it back to the people that they built it on, they won't do it. Philanthropy is just, it's such a tiny, tiny percentage. And it's, when you hear about those, like those good heartwarming stories about some rando rich guy or woman that managed to throw down some serious cash, you know, like I'm going to give back 50% of my, or 70% of my wealth to my community and take care. Like that's a really heartwarming thing, but it's also kind of sad because that should be the norm. Sorry, I'm ranting and not painting. I tend to do these things. You guys got me started. This is something I'm pretty passionate about. I guess this is a special circumstances because, you know, the U.S. is burning right now. The most bizarre thing to you is hearing people berate socialized medicine because private medicine is better, except you don't get it because you don't have enough money to pay for it. So it's just no medicine at all. It is totally crazy, a parabelta. The idea that a wealth gate to medical care versus a time gate is better. Like socialized medicine is built around like give medicine to the people that need it. Everybody pays into it, and those that need it, when they need it, they get it. Boom, done. That makes so much more sense. Their idea is that socialized medicine will throttle your ability to get medicine when you need it and get health care when you need it. But there's always a throttle, whether it's how much money you make or whether it's how, you know, how badly do you need it compared to somebody else. There's always something. And the one that they chose is super dumb. I agree. It's totally crazy. No one needs that amount of money. No one. Yeah. You don't do anything with that level of wealth. You can't. You just start creating insane, insane plans. You just start, you know, putting cars in our orbit so that they smash into satellites and cause a cascade event so that we can never leave the planet again. You know, fun stuff like that. No, these people are definitely broken. And what's sad is, like, I always imagine them, you know, like Donnie Darko. They're just like sitting in their weird, fucked up child porn cave and sobbing because they're miserable. Because none of that equals a good life. None of it. You won the capitalism game, but you didn't win life. And we know that. Like, this wisdom is as old as time. Everybody knows this. It's so common knowledge. I mean, we put it as like the moral of the story in animated TV shows. Like, how do you not get this? You keep others from getting there. Yeah. Yeah, Kellender, that's basically it. Is just knock that ladder out from behind you, climb it, and then leave everybody else hanging. And then die sad and lonely with tiny little hands and an orange face. You think that guy's happy? That guy is fucking miserable. It's not a perfect system, but if the alternative is you can't get to a hospital for a basic checkup if you can't pay for it, is ridiculous. You're from Russia, you can go book a visit with a doctor anytime. Won't be a great professional and mistakes are common, but you're not dying on the street from basic fever. Yeah. Bare essentials, I think, is completely reasonable thing to demand from your government. For what it's worth, you do think things overall are getting better and better. I think that's true too. For I'd say the majority, that's true. But while things are generally getting better and better, there's still this massive disparity that's just growing. And what we need to do is combine those two things. And I don't just mean the disparity of the ultra rich in the US from the struggling in the US. I'm talking about globally. I'm considered part of the 1% globally, and probably many of you are too, even though you think, oh my God, I have to look at my check when I buy groceries. So no, I'm not part of the 1% globally, where the vast majority of people earn less than $1 a day. You might be. And it doesn't have to be that way. There's more than enough. Rafael Lima Ferreira. Welcome. You have a tool shop in Peru? Here we have public health and education. Doctors have to do some years in public health before they can do their own private place. Nice. Congress just reconvened. They got to get that done today as an absolute. Yeah, they do. I'm glad that they reconvened. I'm also glad that they managed to get the ballots out before those lunatics could take anything or do any other damage. I mean, they damaged shit plenty. Kova, enough. Hey. Not only endemic to the U.S. amplifies the worst dramatically, so it's fun to watch. Yeah. You know we got to do a butt glow. Come on now. You know who I is. Pervo McGee. But to play devil's advocate, ultra-rich will eventually get into a unique position to single-handedly enact sweeping societal change that a government couldn't accomplish. There's going to be some time till they get there, and who knows what they're going to do with that power. They're going to be future aristocracy like kings that are bigger than individual nations. Yeah, you've just described feudalism. That sounds horrible to me. And I think that we're already there in a lot of ways. It's a technocracy, oligarchy. We can enact change with the system that we've built. The problem is that we have allowed it to, and we've honestly permitted total corruption to take place because people are greedy, and these people in power want money. That's what it is. So then rich people get us to believe that they're the ones that are able to make those decisions for us. Oh, well, they got so rich, so they must know what they're doing, right? That is a result of the corruption and the brainwashing that they have created with their money. And our politicians were not. They didn't have the intestinal fortitude to stand up against that when it mattered. And continually, they seem to not have that. That is why I like things like the DSA, those organizations, those PACs that are all about getting money out of politics. And those are the only ones that I have supported. I love the idea that we have some Congress people that they don't spend their days trying to get cash from basically investors that are investing in having control over what happens in our governmental system. It's crazy that that's unusual. That's outside the norm in this country. It's so goddamn corrupt. Guitar Donkey, thank you for that follow. You like imagining her walking across power lines with pigeons. Yeah, she would be pretty fun, I think. They could do some good if we get lucky, but you'd have to bet on the goodwill and the long-term vision of those kings. Not sure what to think about that, but it's probably what's going to happen anyway, no matter what I think. Doesn't have to. Doesn't have to happen that way. Um, Ultimately, the populace has the power. It's your classic fight club. I mean, we do their laundry, we prepare their food. We are the working class. We're the all singing, all dancing, right? That's the lifeblood of any system. The queen couldn't be the queen without people that serve. It's not possible. And the same is true. No matter how rich you get, your wealth is dependent on the subservience of those beneath you. And if you push it too far, you're going to get the guillotine. That's gonna happen. Even your soldiers, even your armies that you propose you control the masses with, if you don't give enough back, there will be revolt. And I don't mean the kind of dumbass revolt we had today. They are the Fight Club, that's right. Grabbing a pigeon as she passes by. It's like her little sushi. Little pigeon sushi. When she attacks, it's just a puff of feathers and she purrs. Yum, 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 yum. Delicious. Okay, let's do a new layer. Let's just do some glazing and see how it looks. Might be too much because she's already pretty rendered out. Excuse me. Can't. We're Bob's sweaty tits. That's right. Dachuli, thank you so much for that follow. Appreciate that. It's much easier for the rich to consolidate. I'm not talking about conspiracy or anything. It's just easier for smaller groups of people with huge power to make single-minded long-term decision. I think that's true in regards to making single-minded decisions, but I don't think that's a better system by any means. Oops. Oh, that's right. I'm on a multiply layer. It comes down, I think, back to what I was talking about with the fallibility of your parents kind of deal, right? Like that moment when you realize that the people that have run your life, they don't know what the fuck they're doing either. And in no way do I believe that Musk or Gates or the Waltons, any of these people know how to run our lives. Like they may have ideas and they're certainly welcome to pitch them, but the fact that they have money giving them the power to actually enforce those things, I don't know about that. And again, that's where I think you can meet some of these extreme right wingers in the middle, is because they don't want that either. They want to, especially, your libertarian types, they want to be able to live how they want to live. But then where you lose them is with taxes and with not having total control over, you know, total autonomy within a system. They want all of the societal benefits of being part of a society, but none of the responsibilities. And this is classic. Get your Ayn Randian objectivism going on in there. Not to say that all objectivists think that, but a lot do. Certainly not better, but it is what it is, especially when human worker becomes obsolete, eventually excluding the topmost professionals. People are just going to lose leverage other than violence, and there's ways to avoid that backlash. Honestly, the ways to avoid it would just, institute a UBI, make sure that everybody's taken care of at a minimum level, that our needs and essentials are taken care of as a given. You do that, and really then the question is, what can you contribute? What can you do as an individual that would make you happy, that would make your environment better? If you take away the threat of starvation, you take away the threat of danger, make sure everybody has a house, a safe space to live their lives, then you don't need to worry about fucking revolt. Afed, thank you so much for that follow. I think this is a unique time in what we're talking about, Parabelta, where kind of the sky's the limit. Like, people, one of the blessings, God help us, of Trump is that it's really made people wake up and start to analyze where we are and what we can do. Pay attention to the people that are in power, the powers that be. That's something, man. It really is. Color dodge layer pulling through. We're going to definitely dull it down. It's quite strong right now. But I'm just going to populate it. Oop, we went too big. I kind of want it warmed up just a touch. You call it baseline welfare. It's much easier for top rich to consolidate to create something like that in the developed world. But there are certain institutions that are missing that are required to happen, like intertax, for example, plus current rich aren't rich enough yet. Honestly, rich people are not the people to do that. They're not rich enough to do it. Even if they did consolidate their wealth, they couldn't do it. Our government, via taxing, makes way more money as a result. I think maybe... No, even Bezos couldn't do it. But our government collects an insane amount of money, but they choose to use it on insane shit, like the military. What are those numbers? If you were to cut our support for the military by 50%, we'd still have way more of a budget for military than any other nation, the next several nations combined still, and you'd have enough money to cover things like Medicare for all, free college, shit like that. Where we put our nest eggs is what's messed up. Where our priorities are is completely broken. You love paint Q. You love politics. Is it better to use a color dodge layer and paintbrush versus the dodge tool? I think so. With the color dodge layer, you have more control. You have more say in it. The dodge tool works, but tends to be a little bit more difficult to expect what's going to happen. So if you're experiment with it by all means. But what I have found is if you paint using colors in a color dodge layer, you're able to more subtly influence where you want things to go with your dodge. Whereas a dodge tool will dodge itself, which can make things really difficult. It's also the same as just making your paint mode dodge or color dodge, it will dodge itself, and it gets out of hand so fast. Same thing with the multiply. It does its magic too quickly. So when you're working on something that's layer specific, then it can't build on top of itself. So it's just easier to control. Then if you want more dodge, you want more saturation, more color, something like that, then what you do is you change the color itself. Kova! Hey! I don't think the type of people who achieve mega rich status are the type of people to be that considerate of others. Absolutely. Yeah, Elon Musk was calling the divers a pedophile from the soccer team that got trapped in that cave, and he called them a pedophile because they didn't like his submarine idea and said it was silly. And so he flipped out because he was personally insulted. Like, an institution of people can be trusted to not be personally insulted better, they still are, but better than an individual that's just mega rich and no one tells them no anymore. Like, that's a horrifying concept. You really can't wrap your head around military spending like that at all. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And I mean, the military spending that we are doing and some of the military profiting that we're doing is causing profound suffering around the world. Yemen, for example. That's insane. We're just so disconnected from everything. We do not know how the sausage is made anymore. But we just want more sausage. So much sausage. Gobbling sausage. Okay, I'll shut up now. Sorry. I think we're done with this. I'm just noodling at this point. I'm having fun yammering at you guys. Forgive me. Make a new layer. I'm just gonna... Yeah, I think we'll call that done for today. And boy, have I gone off. What a session. Governments being richer than rich people is temporary, is what you're trying to say. Oh, okay. Because it relies on human workers for their finance. But the rich can print money now, and eventually human workers will be pushed out of the economy and lose most of the means of production, and the hyper-rich that emerge will be born into ownership of enormous automated manufacturing infrastructures, including private military power. You're not wrong, a Parabelta, but you're missing one major feature. Those ultra-rich people that want to make stuff, manufacturing with automation and things like that, they have to sell that to someone. And if you don't have a purchasing class, you can't sell anything, then building stuff doesn't make sense, and it all collapses again. See what I'm saying? So no matter what, you're going to have a new underclass. So yeah, we're going to have these people that are taken care of by UBI maybe, and then they're just forgotten about. But then your new underclass will be the people that service those robots that are under the richiest of rich, that service the rich. But ultimately, always in a product and manufacturing based system, somebody has to buy this shit. So eventually, I mean, according to the system that you're outlining, and I'm not saying it's impossible, you would end up just having corporate wars where they just have robots run around and kill other robots just because they can, which is, again, entirely possible. There's whole anime about that and stuff. But that's what we're talking about at that stage. So hopefully we get out of that feedback loop before that happens, although all signs point to yes, that's going to go down. I'm just saying, I don't think it's the way to go. The way you look at modern capitalism is like feudal fragmentation period of global history, empires emerging. Yeah. I agree. In your premise of how things could go, sure, absolutely. I'm wanting another solution than that. I think that's where maybe we're disagreeing. Is I don't think that rich people are going to give us that solution. I think this is something that people are going to have to. We're going to have to self-educate and grow our aptitude for governing ourselves, and that community-based government might be the way to go. I don't know. I don't have the answers. All I know is shit's fucked up, and the U.S. is in turmoil, pretty bad turmoil right now, just like the rest of the world. So yay, on that fun and happy, glorious note. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the discussion, which was really good today. This was great discussion. I really enjoy these kinds of debates. So thank you, Parabelta. Thank you, everybody. That was a really good talk, and it was fun painting. We will see you on Saturday at noonish, maybe before, maybe a little bit after. I stream on Mondays and Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then Saturdays in noonish. So there's that. If you want to catch this, it will be available in my video on demand here. If you want to see previous episodes, check out the YouTube. If you want to check out my artwork, it's on Instagram and Twitter. Do the follows, do all that subscribing, cool stuff. And we'll catch you next time. And suggest maybe rating LiveBrush. They're great and would get my name out there a bit. I do not know who LiveBrush is. I am terrible at rating. I have failed to do it every time I've tried, but let's go ahead and give it a shot. Thanks, Avid. Okay, so we're going to aim for a raid here. Turn down my volume. You said LiveBrush. Let me do a search first. Oh, yeah, great work. Tyler Jacobson. I think I know Tyler Jacobson. That's great. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, for those of you with me, just bear with me 1 minute while I figure this out. Because, again, I always struggle with this shit. All right, so we're going to jump to LiveBrush. Go away, you. Raid channel. Okay, and oh, hey, I followed them already. Wonderful. So we'll jump to them. Stick around. Give them a follow. Check them out. They're doing painting. I believe one does digital painting, the other one does traditional painting simultaneously, and they just hang out and chat. It's a very cool show. I've watched it a couple of times. So we'll get that started. I'm going to start the raid right now. If... I think there's a countdown, so bear with me. Again, apologies because of my slowness. Okay, we're getting ready to raid. So here we go. Until next time, we'll see you on Saturday. Paint smart, paint sexy.
Could be totally wrong, but he's got this eye for lighting. Have you seen The Duelist? It's like, dude, no, you don't.